Do you struggle with overanalysis paralysis or fearing that you're going to do the wrong thing and it's going to have like catastrophic consequences? So you have a lot of trouble taking action. Let's talk about why. So if you're here and this resonated with you, I want to share some really important information with you. I decided to put together a series to educate and inform people as to where these deep core fears come from. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of dive into it so you can make a decision if this feels aligned and if it's for you. When it comes to our deepest fears, these come from a place that are stored in the body and they are inherited. We have actually come in with them through what is referred to as the witch's wound. Now, for some people, they're going to hear that term and be like, what? I'm not a witch. And this honestly has nothing to do with whether someone aligns with being a witch or thinks that they're a witch or does anything like that. It has to do with the persecution that happened to the feminine under the guise of being accused of being a witch. So over a 300-year period of time, over 3 million women were brutally tortured, maimed, or killed under the accusation of being a witch. This is bigger than the Holocaust when it comes to the atrocity of the amount of murder and torture and negative consequences of just being who you are. And for this was just for being a woman. So we have this ingrained in our DNA, this fear, this innate fear of being ourselves, being who it is that we are as a woman. We grow up in a world that makes it out to seem like being a woman is a bad thing. Like somehow we are failing as a human being because our hormones cycle for 28 days versus just 24 hours. And we are a different version of ourselves for different periods of time throughout that cycle because of the way that our hormones fluctuate and our needs according to those hormonal fluctuations. The world that we live in has been created for the masculine. This is why people refer to it as the patriarchal society instead of the matriarchal society, which is based around the needs of the feminine. So by just being a feminine, there's this program that there's something innately wrong with us, that we need to be able to keep up with the men, that we need to act like a man, that we have to perform like a man. And this starts to feel very oppressive, overwhelming, and we become very burned out, especially for those of us that have what I refer to as an underactive archetype. So what I have done as I have made myself an expert in the witch's wound because I have studied it, I've channeled information on it. I've even written my books. The first one is called Witch's Wound, pertaining to this wounding because it was based on actual past life memories that I have from a lifetime where I was persecuted for being accused of being a witch. We've inherited this fear. Okay. So with that, we have different archetypes that I've created. There are 6 in total. 3 are what I consider overactive, and then 3 are underactive. So if we think about it in the way of flight or fight, some people are more prone to, when they feel a threat, to either fight, and some are more prone to freeze or run. Right? So we have the overactives, and then we have matching or kind of paired underactive versions of how that same fear expresses itself. But each archetype has a unique expression. And understanding what happened in that past life or in our ancestors' life that was passed down through our DNA. Science has shown that I believe it's up to 9 generations we can pass down generational and ancestral trauma. So whatever has been either passed down or we experienced in a past life, that is still in our body. And I've gotten this question before, so I want to go ahead and just talk about it here. Sorry, that was my leg, long legs. I want to talk about it here. People will ask, well, how do I know if it was a past life that I'm having these memories or flashes of? Or how do I, like, was it an ancestral memory that is stored in my body? Here's the truth of that. It doesn't matter. What matters is the reality that it's stored in the body. It doesn't really matter how it got there. It matters that it's there and it's impacting us on a very severe level. So what I want to talk today in this specific video is about what I refer to as the possum archetype. So as we know, the possum is that wonderful little critter that when it's under a state of fear, it freezes, right? It plays dead, shuts down. This is going to be a characteristic of our individuals that tend to find themselves in stressful situations that they shut down. They are afraid to take action. They are looking for others to give them permission or approval. They are not someone who tends to take a lot of assertive behavior. So it would be something like, instead of, hey, let me just Google that and find it out for myself, it's, oh, I need to ask someone, and then I need to get everyone else's opinion, and I have to check and make sure, and I've got to go through all of these things to feel like I have permission. So it's these individuals that struggle in a way with being assertive, taking action, taking risks, and really kind of putting themselves out there. So when it comes to our businesses, especially, this can be very challenging, because when we're a business owner, we have to show leadership. We have to take risks. We have to be in a space that is open to being willing to fail. And for my possums, the failure aspect is terrifying. I mean, it is so terrifying to the point where a lot of them freeze and they won't take action. So we'll go through business and we'll start working on creating the signature offer, and we start putting it all together. And then when it's time for them to actually start like putting themselves out there and starting to show up, my possums and my sheep, I'm going to do a separate video on my sheep. My possums really struggle to take that next step, because they're like, well, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I make a mistake? What if I cough during a video? Or what if something? It's like, it's called being human. It's gonna happen. I mean, I just kicked my desk a few moments ago. You know, it is what it is. Like, we're humans, and if people are going to judge us for our humanity, that's more a reflection of them and where they are in their own healing journey than on us. But for the possums, it's terrifying. It's really terrifying. And that's because in the past, whatever mistake they had made had catastrophic consequences. So I'm going to pull up my notes here that I have about my possums. And I want to tell you and give you kind of some insight as to what most likely happened in that past life or in that ancestor's lifetime that imparted this fear within the body. All right. So for my possums, we or our ancestor probably experienced an event or situation where we tried to like fight or protect or defend ourselves or someone else, and we failed. Okay. We were not successful. So something was wrong. There was a threat in some way. There was something that came in, and we tried to make the right move when it came to it. So it could be a plague came in. It could be that there was a drought that happened. It could be that there was a business deal that we had the opportunity to make. Whatever it was, we tried to do the right thing. We tried to have the right outcome, but it did not work out. And because of that, there was most likely a big loss. Okay. A pretty significant loss. For some, as we go through this process of healing this, it's interesting the past life memories that'll come up, where I've had clients share things like they'll have the dream where it finally comes up and they understand where they tried to protect their child against invaders and they couldn't, and their child was therefore either taken or killed. And so this is within them. So there's this fear, and they're like, why am I always afraid that I'm never going to be like, I don't want to have children because I'm terrified I'll never be able to protect them. Or why am I so afraid to have a business because I'm terrified that I'm going to do the wrong thing and I'll end up like losing everything. It's because of a certain situation or circumstance that happened either in that past life or in our ancestors' life that created that exact situation. Okay. And back in those times, if we failed, especially in the wrong way, this was within the last probably about 400 years. We're looking at going back about that far when it comes to the specific witches wounding. That was pretty significant. I mean, people would starve to death, right? They could lose everything. There were invaders at the time. There were wars. There was a lot of stuff going on. There was also the, you said or did the wrong thing. And now you're on trial, knowing full well there was no actual trial. Now you're being accused of being a witch. And who knows what's going to happen to you. I mean, the types of torture and brutal murder that happened to these women, it was horrific. I mean, just absolutely horrific. So it makes sense that even in this lifetime, when we're not having to deal with the Iron Maiden or being drawn and quartered, we still have this deep fear of, oh my God, like something really terrible is going to happen to me if I say or do the wrong thing. And it can be very crippling. It can be very, very challenging to start taking action. So because of these events that happened in the past, this is why in this lifetime, you're most likely struggling to take action, because you're afraid that if you do anything, you're going to do the wrong thing. And it's going to result in you like either being publicly humiliated, losing everything, some type of severe consequence. Okay. And it's pretty oppressive. This is a strong wound and a strong fear. So what I want to invite you into, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly what I'm dealing with. This is exactly what I'm struggling with. This is exactly my biggest fear. What we're going to look at is moving into a state of healing that specific wound. And I will be completely honest, what I've put together is a specific 8-week program that has the protocol to do this, to make peace with that ancestor or that past version of ourselves, to understand what happened, to release them, and that from the heartache and the harm that they went through, and to also give ourselves a sense of peace, to heal as we're moving through this process, and to be free of this. I mean, let's be real. This is freedom. If we could be free of this fear, what then, right? What then would we be able to do? We would be able to start that business. We would be able to ask that person out on a date. And yes, this does apply to the masculine as well, but it's referred to as the warrior's wound. The warrior's wound, it's a little bit different, but the archetypes are the same. They express slightly differently, but it's the same kind. So if you're a masculine and you're listening to this going, ooh, the wounding was slightly different, but it's reflecting and expressing in a very similar way. So if you're interested, the link to check that out is going to be below. If you just want to kind of get curious and learn what your archetype is, you can go into the links below as well and take my free Witch's Wound archetype quiz to learn your archetype. There is one for the masculine as well, and I'll make sure to link that as well. So that's that for that specific archetype. So if you have questions about this, need any support, feel free to reach out and let me know. This is a very, very powerful protocol that I put together to help in the healing of this. And if you're someone who is really, really struggling and you really try to figure out, like, where did this even come from? Like, we'll see that they play out more in our childhood because they get triggered and activated. We have to have it activated through lifestyle, through our life experience somehow. Just like genetic traits, those are activated through lifestyle. These inherited genetic ancestral wounds are also activated through our lifestyle, meaning the way that our life has been experienced. Things happen that trigger them. This is why we choose our soul group and we have all of that together, because that's what we need so that we know to heal it, right? So that's what I have for that. If you have questions, again, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do what I can to support you. But if you're really in a space where you're like, gosh, I need to learn more about this, I need to do something about it, just check out the link below and you can find all the information out on what to do to heal this so that you can finally be free of it. I will see you all soon. Thank you and namaste.